CD Projekt Red has officially kicked off pre-production on one of gaming's most infamous comeback stories. But would we even be getting a sequel if they hadn't already completed one of the most legendary redemption arcs in gaming history? Let's talk about what's coming in the sequel, what nearly killed its predecessor, what brought it back, and what it still needs to get right. And is the sequel even a good idea, or is it a worse idea than me in hot pink booty shorts? Please stick around long enough for that joke to make sense. Let's break it down. CD Projekt Red has announced that, and now keep your expectations or your hopes in check here as I say this, but they have announced that Cyberpunk 2, and it is currently officially being referred to as Cyberpunk 2, obviously as we near the release that can be changed, but they announced that Cyberpunk 2 has officially entered pre-production. So this can mean a lot of things depending on which studio you're at. This could even be as simple as like concept art and that sort of thing. Now, I do know that it is a little bit further along than that because the creator of Cyberpunk, as far as the actual tabletop game, he was a consultant in the first one, obviously. Why not get the guy that made it? And he was there heavily involved in the first game. He is still in a consulting role on the second game. He is less involved, which obviously doesn't have to be nearly as involved because they've already got the groundwork. They've already got the background. They know how everything works.
Right.
So he's still showing up. And he mentioned that he has seen a second city. He mentioned there will be another city. They're still going to have Night City. It's still going to be there, but we are going to have another location. He said he's not going to tell us what the location is, but there will be another location. And he talked about a lot of interesting things that he's seen. So obviously their pre-production is certainly deeper than simply concept art, but it is still a great deal away. Whenever they announced it on their earnings call, somebody was sounded like they were kind of trying to pin the CEO to a release-ish window.
Man, you can't do that in pre-production.
No, and so they were like, so are we not going to see this until like 2030, 2031? And the CEO just said, basically, hey, a lot of things can happen between now and the end game. Things can go wrong. Things can go well.
Yeah.
It's a moving thing. So we're certainly not going to be committing to anything at this point in time. However, 5 years is about our typical time for producing a game from start to finish. So he's essentially said like that timeline is not out of the realm of possibility.
And here's another thing. There was a cutting room floor piece for Cyberpunk 2077 where we were going to take shuttles to the moon and there was going to be another city on the moon. And then there were rumors that city was going to be like, it was still going to be a cyberpunk, obviously Cyberpunk city, always night without the benefit of daylight. And it was going to be a little more unhinged, which there are parts of Night City where I'm like, that's completely unhinged already. I don't know how it could get any worse than that. But
well, maybe that is the city, because that would be if they've already kind of like dedicated some research and some effort into it, and could also explain why the creator was so excited about it. Because most of us are not exposed to the board game. The board game's been around for a long time.
Right.
So the board game predates most of the players of the video game. You know, so it's like we don't have a deep knowledge of that. So for him to be so excited about it and not want to say anything, which obviously you don't want to say anything, but that would lend credence to it being something like the moon. Because if you just call, I don't even know what the cities are. He did say one thing that he did say about the city was that it wasn't Chicago. It wasn't like the actual city of Chicago. But he said it felt like Chicago gone wrong. But if they said the name of a city, most of us, you know, I didn't play the tabletop game. I don't know. So I wouldn't be excited about it. But if you just said that, oh, it's this city and it's on the moon, I know nothing about any of that, but I'm already in. Like, I'm already like interested. You know, tell me. Like,
well, if you look at if you watch the skyline when you're playing 2077, it's obvious some of those ships are not staying on Earth. So it's just sad we weren't able to. I mean, and I know through mods, some of the modding community has been able to create mods where at least you have flying cars, which we definitely need that in the sequel. And also, too, they need to think about adding at least co-op. Maybe not full-blown GTA-style multiplayer, especially since I think that will just end up being absolute troll city. You won't be able to get anything done.
That seems like more chaos than CD Projekt Red would actually want to promote in their highly curated environments.
And I think they need to listen to their fan base and give us third person.
Yes, I so desperately want that. The first game was supposed to have it, but that was one of the many many issues along the way that they ran into. They had intended to have third person perspective, but they couldn't make it work. It was one of those things that they abandoned in pursuit of some of the other obviously more pressing things that they had to get working. But I would love to see third person be introduced in the sequel, just because I'm a huge fan of visual progression in a
Well, and
character.
also in a game that was part of the game
Yes.
was how your character appeared and your augments, ever whatever augments you had, and going to the Ripper dock. And to me, that just became worthless. What you were wearing, you could have been butt naked for that matter, because it didn't matter.
Well, there were some times where it's like, you go in and you loot somebody, or you go into a store and you're just trying to find something that has better armor. You're just trying to find better
Right?
stats. And I would like get in there and I would look around and see how it looked. And then there are times where I was just like, wait, why do I care? Like, what does it matter? Like, I could be wearing
Why
hot pink booty shorts. It doesn't matter.
stilettos
So
with
yeah, it's
booty
like, as long as it's got better
shorts?
armor, because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah,
So
I mean, unless you're on a bike.
it always seemed so weird that they would. Well, I mean, again, we know that the intention was for it to be there, but it feels so weird in
Yeah,
a game whenever you have all this ability and access to these things that can change your physical appearance, from augments to tattoos to clothing, all of that. And then you go through and you meticulously look through these things and put stuff together. And then whenever you're happy with it, you can just put your hands together, back
yeah,
out of the menu, and now it's all worthless. Now it
it's
doesn't
all gone.
mean anything.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely hope they do that. But
Me too.
even
I'm
if they
kind of
added
afraid
like
though
a
that they might not, just because they might think like, well, no, this is part of Cyberpunk's identity now, is first person.
But even if they just let you get like, 2 to 3 of your chooms together and play as a little gang for multiplayer, that would be legit.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video, please give us a like, a subscribe, and support our campaign to get third person back in Cyberpunk. Also, at the time of recording, we have 68 subscribers, so
Giggity giggity.
there's a primo number open for somebody. Good news, yes, that Cyberpunk 2 is entered into pre-production. Obviously, they have a fantastic building block to work from. They've done so much development already, so hopefully that kind of like speeds up some of the process and allows them to do more with the time that they take. This is a crazy story about how CD Projekt Red, it's been quite the arc, because they were pretty under the radar for a long time. They made Witcher 1, they made Witcher 2. These games were well regarded. They were fine games, but they weren't massive hits. They weren't
Right.
anything. They made their money back. They did fine, but nothing crazy. Then Witcher 3 happens. Witcher 3, and rightfully so, is an absolute smash. That thing destroys records, and it's one of the greatest games of all time. Not even just RPG, but just of any genre. That elevated their status. They also had GOG, Good Old Games, and but that's lesser known to most people. But
Yes.
people that do have that love it, because they don't have any DRM or anything like that. DRM is not allowed on anything you buy on GOG, so it's a great way to sort of preserve legacy games and that kind of stuff. But as far as the gaming public in general, that The Witcher 3 was what elevated their status. And then they did that whole thing for a while, DLC, all the support, and then word came out, hey, they're doing Cyberpunk. This is gonna be crazy, and we were all excited. And then it released in one of the most broken states I can recall. After many delays, after many delays, it
Yeah.
released in an incredibly broken state, and they lost so much respect and trust with the
And it was
community.
sad too, because oddly enough, I was on PS4 Pro when it launched and I got it and I didn't experience any crashes. The only thing I ever had happen before I got upgraded to a 5 was that the entire world spawned in naked one time. But that's about the weirdest thing I had happen the whole time. I mean, I had crashes to desktop, but hell, you get that and everything.
Well, I had a similar experience in that I had it on Xbox, and Xbox was actually one of the lesser troubled releases whenever it came to
Right.
to Cyberpunk. For whatever reason, I don't know, but I played it on Xbox. I was an Xbox main, so played on Xbox, and I believe the only issue that I could recall is, I think my game might have crashed once or twice. Not like it didn't break anything, it didn't bug my save or anything
Right.
like that. I just had to restart the game. And the only other time was Johnny Silverhand was talking to me, and he was supposed to be holding the cigarette in his hand, and he kept it in his mouth. So he's talking, and the cigarette is stayed in his mouth, and he's still holding it. His fingers are positioned like he's holding his fingers, and his hands smoking. That's it. And as far as bugs go, I'm willing to take it. Like, hey, I'll take that. When everybody else is complaining that this thing's completely broken, I'm like, okay, I can deal with a weird rogue cigarette. But then you see everybody on PC, which I know that was where it really hit, was PC, because there was so many different variables and things like that, and it was super broken. But I also remember that PlayStation actually took it off. I've never seen this happen before. PlayStation took it
Yes.
off of their PSN store. That was wild. I had never,
Which was wildly considered one of the most responsible things that Sony had ever done.
no matter how buggy it got, I'd never seen them do that. That was how you knew it was bad. It launched in such a horrible state, and
Yeah.
that was one of the worst PR battles that I can recall ever seeing in my history as a gamer.
Yeah.
But props to CD Projekt Red. They took it on the chin. They took ownership of it,
Yeah.
where they basically said, you know what? We commit to making it work. And they actually pulled people off of projects. They delayed DLCs. They just pulled people off of those things, and they went all hands on deck. Let's fix this thing. And they did they did direct refunds. So if you couldn't get a refund from wherever you bought it, whether it be a brick and mortar store, an online store, whatever, you could get in touch with CD Projekt Red, and they would do direct refunds. And they did about 30,000 of those directly themselves, them to individual customers, which is something
And
I'd never seen done before, ever.
I would bet you solid money that a lot of those people, most of those people that got refunded, ended up rebuying that game a year later.
No doubt. No doubt. But just so it's like, even though they'd gotten all this goodwill from the community because of what they had done with The Witcher 3 and the rest of their history, then they make this massive mistake, but then they take ownership of that mistake, and they handle it
Yeah.
with humility, and they say, you know what, we were wrong, we screwed up, and then they took it on the chin. Like I said, like 30,000 direct refunds, constant patches, constant communication. I had never seen anything quite like that, to the point that by the time Edge Runners came out, the show on Netflix, they had completely turned it around. And then whenever they announced Phantom Liberty, people were excited again.
Oh yeah, and they were. And plus they made sure every single update, even content updates, were free because they knew they had had a disastrous launch. So once they launched the thing where you could get like 58 different apartments instead of just that one safe house, and then they added the Edge Runner content, and they constantly improved upon that game. Everything about it improved. They fixed the driving where it didn't feel like you were driving on ice all the time, and it still needs work, but it's way better than the shit show it was at the beginning. And then Phantom Liberty, man, it solidified everything.
Yeah, so what a ride they have been on. And to go from being one of the most loved developers in gaming to be one of the most, I don't want to say hated, but
Yeah, that's
they betrayed the trust of the customer. And but
but
then to go
every
from
developer has done that. And you've got to make your redemption arc. Some of them never do.
Well, there you have it. There's a brief summary of how Cyberpunk went from broken to beloved, and why we're all willing to roll the dice on a sequel. But what do you want from Cyberpunk 2? Moon cities, co-op gangs, functional mini-map? Drop your wish list in the comments below. And go ahead and pick a video here. The one up top, YouTube picked that one for you. The one below that, I picked that one for you. So make your choice, and we'll talk to you soon.